let's get this show on the road. Just don't bark. Hello friends and enemies. Today's video, for those of you who've been on my channel before, is noticeably different. I'm visiting my parents for the Christmas holidays, and this video is also going to be I've accepted that it's going to be kind of informal. I'm not in my usual setup. I'm the only one home right now, and I have my dog here, and he's a borker. He's very chatty. So when I'm in my usual setup, when he barks upstairs, you can't really hear him. But here, you can hear him, because you may have already also noticed that this room is very echoey, and I'm really sorry about that. There's not really much I can do about that. Future videos will have much less echo. Don't you just love holidays? It's zero stress all the time. So anyway, let's get into today's video, which is the topic of ex-vegans. Again, I know it's been talked about almost ad nauseum, both on my own channel and on other vegan channels, but I like to think that I'm bringing something new to the table. I wouldn't have made this video if I thought I was just repeating what other YouTubers have already said. So anyone who's been vegan for any amount of time will have noticed that vegans, they come and go in this movement. It's especially noticeable on social media because it's made into a big deal. People who had a vegan channel are now no longer vegan. These ex-vegans, they'll claim almost always that it's for medical reasons. And I know that's really frustrating for my fellow vegans because, as we all know, a vegan diet is suitable for humans at every single stage of life, and it's in fact, when done correctly, a very health-promoting diet. So to hear people say that they're quitting the diet for health reasons is often very frustrating, and it's often interpreted as an excuse. That's not to say there aren't legitimate health conditions, medical conditions that might prevent you from eating fully plant-based, but as we all know, there's more to veganism than just eating plant-based. There's also avoiding wearing animal skins and furs, not going to the zoo, etc., etc. We all know this. I just have to say that because I know there's always going to be one person in the comments who says, well, actually, I have to eat X amount of animal products, but I still avoid furs and things like that as well. So what about me? Like, yes, I acknowledge you. You exist. Okay. So I asked you guys on an Instagram poll in my Instagram story if you consider people who once identified as vegan, who went back to eating animal products, if you would consider those people to have ever been vegan. And 60% of you said no. So 60% of you think that ex-vegans were never truly vegan. And I totally understand this perspective. It just seems so wild that anyone could wake up to the lie that they've been spoon-fed their entire life. Wake up and see the truth, right? They could take the red pill, so to speak, and then go back to consuming animal products, go back to animal exploitation after they realized how they've been lied to their entire lives. It's really unsettling. But first I want to talk about how interpretations of the definition of veganism can affect how you would have answered this question if ex-vegans were ever really vegan. If you actually look at the definition of veganism, avoiding exploitation to and cruelty to animals as far as possible and practicable, we see that there's nothing about internal belief in there. I've talked about this before on my channel a long time ago, but basically, if you look at this definition, it's purely behavioral. It's only a certain set of prescriptive actions that you have to partake in to be considered vegan. So of course, it's hard to imagine why you would eat fully plant-based, avoid furs, leathers, etc., etc., if you didn't actually think that animals ought not to be exploited. But if you just use your imagination, you can think of something, right? Like maybe someone has a vegan partner, so they just partake in these behaviors to make them happy. Or maybe, like we'll get into later, they go vegan or engage in vegan behaviors because they want to build a social media following and create a career off of what they perceive to be something trending. So this definition is technically purely behavioral. Thus, if you were once behaving accordingly, like eating plant-based and all these other things, and then one day you decided to go back to eating animal products, technically during that time where you were behaving in a vegan manner, you would be vegan. Now, this definition is not very satisfying for a couple reasons. Well, more than that, but two reasons that I want to talk about. One being that since it doesn't account for intent or any kind of internalized beliefs, if you make a mistake and accidentally buy something not vegan, then technically, at least in that moment, you're not vegan anymore, even though it was an accident. And even then there's problems of like, okay, for how long during that period are you not vegan? Just during the transaction, like purely just when you're eating the thing or whatever the case may be? Does it extend afterwards, and for how long? It prompts a lot of questions that are not easily answered. So this is something an internalized belief could account for, so that you don't lose your vegan status. That sounds so ridiculous to say, but you know what I mean. The second you make a mistake, because you have that underpinning belief that keeps you vegan still. And also, it's just kind of absurd to accept a definition that absolutely does not require any kind of like internalized belief system or intent or motivation. I just think a lot of people would find that unsatisfying. Hey, maybe you find that totally fine and that's okay, but I think to a lot of people that's probably absurd. And that in of itself is a reason to reject an idea. But okay, let's go back to the original assumption I'm sure most of us had that, you know, an internalized belief is a key component to being vegan. I think that's why people who don't think ex-vegans were ever really vegan think that, because they're assuming that you have to care about the animals to some degree to be considered vegan, and it just seems so ludicrous that you could possibly go from caring to going back to harming animals. Like, how could an ex-vegan ever have truly cared? And I think a part of this is also due to the fact that we don't really see very often people returning to ignorance, returning to innocence. That's a really common theme in our stories, our movies, and our books and our tales that we tell. People maturing and wanting to go back to that innocence but being unable to do so. So I think when we see ex-vegans, it seems like in stark contrast to this. Like, how can you go back? How could you go back to innocence? Like, you can't, because you know now that you're a murderer, like, so to speak. You know now that you were partaking in something so harmful for so long. You cannot go back once you know. You cannot go back to that ignorance, to that innocence. And I think that contributes to why we find it so disturbing. Now, with that being said, we do see in real life also, however, that it is sadly not the case that people, once they arrive at the correct belief, that they will remain there. And yes, I'm speaking in absolute terms when I say that being vegan is the correct position to hold, just as not being racist or not being sexist is the correct moral position to hold. But sadly, we see that people do, in fact, like regular people who aren't, let's just use misogyny for an example, people who aren't misogynistic or sexist, they're just like a regular person, they can become radicalized and then go on to become very misogynistic. People who are at the correct moral position sadly do not always stay there. And I think for veganism, especially when we see so many pro-animal exploitation messages everywhere, and it's very common, it's the common narrative, it's the most popular narrative that animals are here for us to exploit. It can be very easy, I think, to fall back into that. And I know vegans don't like to admit that, and I'm not saying like you, viewer, you watching, yes, it will be very easy for you to not be vegan anymore, obviously. I'm talking on a macro level. But yeah, you know, we even in some social circles as well, it's not even the case that veganism is tolerated, it's the case in some social circles that you ought to eat animal products. It's not okay to be vegan, it's a good thing to eat meat, dairy, and eggs. These kind of pressures, not even pressures, just social influences, I think, can maybe erode away at this truth that they realize that exploiting animals is wrong, and just slowly eat away at that until, I guess, until they go back. So I do think it's possible for some ex-vegans that, yes, they were truly vegan and they did care in that moment. But with that also being said, I think we need to make a distinction between different types of compassion. And this is where I'm going to sound like a pseudo-philosopher, even though people do philosophy every single day in their everyday lives. But it's just the best way I know how to explain it. The only type of compassion that's pure, really, is when it's based in justice. I think it's possible to be compassionate to certain people or animals or whatever, and have that compassion not rooted in the right thing. So what I mean by this is, let's take Alyse Parker, Raw Alignment, for example, the reason why you probably clicked on this video. It's entirely possible that she did care about the animals, but her compassion was contingent on how well it served her and her livelihood, you know, her money, her fame, her success. I think it's really easy to care about animals if you're making money from it and if you're gaining fame and attention from it. I think it's easy to care about animals when not exploiting them serves you in some kind of way. So I think with Elise's case, she was vegan, she was building her career, she got a lot of attention, she was very successful in doing that. And she probably could have kept doing that and kept making money, but it probably occurred to her, hey, that maybe there's more money to be made by not being vegan anymore. So with that, maybe now, hey, maybe the anti-vegan arguments are a bit more persuasive.
Much evidence to back up plant-based eating and how wonderful that is for the environment and our health and everything. And there are also an equivalent amount of claims, maybe not equivalent, don't mark my words on that. There are claims to back up carnivore eating, ketogenic eating, paleo eating, not plant-based eating, and how that is actually better for our environment and our health.
She was saying, oh, well, the environmental argument, which is like so sound, like there's no good evidence against any of the environmental arguments, you know? But anyway, so she said, oh, well, there's two sides to every story, and there's actually good arguments that veganism isn't the best thing for the planet, which is something she wouldn't have accepted before. But now maybe she has a reason to not be vegan anymore, and oh, maybe this sounds a bit more convincing. So I think her compassion was based in her own selfishness or greed or desire to just build a career, which isn't a bad thing, but it is a bad thing when your whole moral system is based on how much money you make. But in Elise's case, I just want to point out that it seems unlikely to me that she actually ever cared in any capacity, not even a way that was self-serving to her. And the reason why I think this is because a lot of her previous behavior doesn't really inspire confidence. She's promoted a lot of stuff on her channel that was really questionable and potentially harmful to her viewers, like brand deals that were potentially harmful to her viewers, and it was purely just a money grab. Even when she still identified as vegan, she bought a designer dog, she bought a dog from her breeder, so yeah, it seems to me that she never actually cared. So I'm gonna go back to the brand deals thing because that's important, but I first want to talk about how her whole theme for her channel is her trying new things and like challenging herself. She calls it challenging herself, but it's really not. I'll get into that. So that she can better herself and better connect with other people. But this comes off as so disingenuous when you actually look at the way in which she's challenging herself. She does things like not shaving her armpits, not washing her hair, eating nothing but animal flesh and eggs for 30 days. How is this a challenge? How is this going to better yourself? How is this going to allow you to connect with other people in any way? You know, most people, when they think about challenging themselves or bettering themselves, they think about volunteering, reading some books, learning a new skill, hey, maybe even doing activism. You know, these are things that actually connect you to other people. This is how you actually better yourself. Elise is only interested in doing things that can create a clickbaity title because, let's be real, I volunteered for a year at some charitable organization is not going to get as many clicks, not going to get as many views, and is not going to be as profitable as making a video about how you didn't shave your armpits for a year or whatever. I don't know how long it was. You would have to be such a shallow person to begin with, like live in a bubble, to think that not shaving your armpits for a year is going to promote personal growth. I don't think someone this lacking in any substance actually exists on the planet. Like, even Elise, who's a very shallow person, like not even her. And so that's why I don't believe for 1 second that she's doing these channels or these challenges for personal growth or to connect with other people. It's all about the money for her. How do we avoid people like this? Because as veganism grows in popularity and as this movement grows and as it becomes just more trendy, I guess, we're gonna see people, parasites, trying to take our time and our money. And I think this is such an important thing to be wary of because every minute and every dollar that you give to someone who doesn't care about the animals, isn't working proactively to help the animals, takes time and money away from the animals, which is just so disgusting. People like Alyse Parker, she just disgusts me, you know? I would be very wary of people who are selling, frankly, useless and harmful, potentially, things on their channel for exorbitant amounts of money. So an example would be on Alyse Parker's channel back when she was vegan, she was promoting this red light therapy device.
You literally just hold the on button here. I'll show you. You hold the on button and you hold it about 6 inches away from your face. So you could like rest it on the counter and like sit below the area that it is, or you could just hold it with your hands. It's not too heavy. Sometimes I have also held it like above my head to specifically target my brain, and I do try and keep it around 6 inches away. It does penetrate the skull, which is pretty cool. I have also held it like above my head to specifically target my brain.
Now, there are studies that show like there's positive benefits to being exposed to red light, but these aren't conclusive. Like the way she talks about it on her channel is like, it's really gonna help. Like also you can find red light devices for skin benefits in dermatologists' offices, so you know that lends to the credibility of these devices. But these are medical devices, and she's promoting them for at-home use, where when used incorrectly, it can lead to injury, it can lead to skin damage, burns, it can damage your eyes. As well, these things aren't regulated. So if you spend all this money on a device, you don't actually know if you're getting the intensity required to actually see any kind of physical benefits. Elise has also promoted alkaline water on her channel, and she also has ties to MLMs. I'm gonna let another YouTuber who made a really good video on this topic explain it.
Something you should know about Elise is that Parker is not her real last name. It's Veganism. Her older brother, Robert, is the owner of the CEO movement, a notorious MLM scam. Multi-level marketing, or LMM, is a system for selling goods or services through a network of distributors. The typical multi-level marketing program works through recruitment, such as Facebook.
What I'm going to cover on this video is one that I've been seeing in the last few days that I haven't noticed before. Now, it started out being, my timeline has been flooded basically by these videos or photos or blog posts or whatever. The posts are like, they're all pretty much the same there. We're looking for people who want to travel the world. You know, you can travel the world and make money from the beauty of your laptop, usually accompanied by photos or videos of exotic locations like swimming with turtles or fucking climbing pyramids, funnily enough. On top of that, there's also a product that they sell, which is a Kangen water machine.
In order to be a member of the CEO movement, you need to pay $79, which is just to get in. And from there, you are charged that amount every 28 days as opposed to every 30 days. Not only are you being charged $79 every 28 days just to be a member, but you are also expected to pay thousands of dollars for their coaching program. Members of the CEO movement are encouraged to promote Antivegan water, a water filter system that turns your water alkaline. Not only does this water filtering system cost thousands of dollars, but many outrageous health claims have been made. You are required to purchase this before promoting it to others. Now, where have we seen and heard about this before?
One of the main reasons that I've wanted to make and drink green juice for such a long time is that green juice is abundant in vitamins and minerals, and that really helps create a very alkaline environment in our bodies. So many very prominent diseases and things like inflammation are caused by a very acidic environment in our body. So consuming things that help promote alkalinity is extremely important for our overall health and well-being.
Water that is naturally alkaline occurs when water passes over rocks like springs and picks up minerals, which increases its alkaline level. However, many people who drink alkaline water buy alkaline water that's been through a chemical process known as electrolysis. None of the health claims have actually been proven by science. A study published by the World Health Organization cautions against drinking water with low mineral content, which has been removed by the false electrolysis that the machine uses. If you truly insist on having your precious alkaline water, you can make it at home. You can simply add a squeeze of a lemon juice to your glass of water or mix in some baking soda in order to clean your dishes.
What I can do, however, is make this video which hopefully people who have been asked to join the CEO movement will search, and will search, is CEO movement a scam? To which the answer to that question is yes, it is. It's a load of shit. Stay away from it. And if anybody asks you about it, tell them to fuck off.
I personally get about 5 messages from an MLM called Arbonne every week on my Instagram. It depends how active I am, but on average I'd say 5. And I can't post all of them here in this video because Instagram deletes messages after a while. These people are preying on the fact that I'm vegan and they're assuming I'm a compassionate person. They always include in their messages like, oh, I see you're super passionate about veganism. Do you want to check out my vegan cruelty-free business? They always say it's their business. It's not. Maybe it is, but it's really weird that there's so many businesses with the same name out there. Are they all the same founders of this company? Like, there's like thousands of them. Like, that's so bizarre that one company can have thousands of founders. It's just so stupid. And like, listen, I understand that MLMs like are predatory. They target like stay-at-home moms typically, or younger women. And so I'm not saying that every single like MLM consultant is like a predatory, like a bad person, but their behavior is predatory whether they recognize it or not. And I frankly just find it really disgusting to try and use someone's morals and ethics to sell a product. So I think it's important for everyone to remember that people will take advantage of your compassion, and you need to be on the lookout for these types of people. Because, you know, Alyse Parker, she's not the first person to take advantage of the vegan community, and she absolutely will not be the last. So I think some good questions we need to ask ourselves are, does this person try to sell questionable stuff? Do they keep their promises? Do they even ever partake in any kind of animal activism or environmental activism or health activism? Do they ever bear witness, for instance? I think that's a really good indicator that you can probably trust that person. How often do they talk about animals, if ever? And yes, I was blatantly looking down at my notes. I'm using the excuse as this is an informal video. Sorry if I just jumped, my camera stopped recording and my dog is moving around a lot, so sorry if there's been a lot more jump cuts than usual in this video. If I were to put my biases aside for a moment, and the best I can, I would have to be honest and say that there's really no way that anyone can 100% know that an online personality that they're giving their time and money to is worth it. And I say this as someone who's also a viewer, and I also consume a lot of media on the internet. And that's hard for me to say because I know myself, right? And I know other content creators behind the scenes, and I know that they're excellent people, but as a viewer, I don't know. So maybe the solution might be just to donate to well-known animal charities. But I also, as a content creator, I have to say that I don't like that conclusion, and maybe you as a viewer don't like that conclusion. And the best we can really do in that instance is just ask ourselves the right questions about this person. Yeah, let me know your thoughts down below. You guys, I said this in my last video, but you guys always leave such long, thoughtful comments, and I love reading them. Even if you don't really want to contribute much to the conversation, just leaving any kind of comment helps me with YouTube's algorithms. You can leave me an emoji, or has anyone started watching The Witcher on Netflix? I really like it. I have 2 more episodes to go and I'm pretty excited about it, so tell me if you watch that, maybe in the comments down below. Follow me on Instagram if you're interested in my Instagram feed, but also if you want to partake in future polls that I will feature in my videos. And I said this in my last video, but 30% of you who watch my videos aren't subscribed, and if you all subscribed, I'd be well over the 10,000 mark by now. So thank you so much for watching. I think there might be just one more video until the new year. I don't know. But regardless, happy holidays, and I'll see you in the next one.